It's good to see so many familiar faces, and hopefully we add some new ones. I look forward to this monthly Rebound live webcast. We have so many growth-minded people that want to support the Rebound community. We've all rebounded from something or will need to rebound from something in the future. Our goal is self-actualization, to reach our fullest potential, to learn and grow. So today's topic, and I try to use the basketball season as the cadence of these meetings. You know, your vision was last month. Now it's the dog days. How do you motivate during the dog days of the year? In basketball, when I played and coached, the end of January, early February was always a time of year where you kind of got flat. And I think it's for several reasons. The weather, I think the newness was worn off. There wasn't anything really exciting in the near future in terms of deadlines, injuries, fatigue, repetition, routine. And so it got kind of old. And I think it was important to one, experience it, like recognize it, and then try to manage it. Have any of you have experienced that in the workplace? I see heads nodding. Tiffany, I'm going to call on you since you're on top of the screen. What can you tell us about your experiences in this scenario?
Well, I think, along with everybody else, COVID was a bit of a challenge. I've reinvented myself probably every decade, but COVID gave me an amazing opportunity to do that again. And just staying motivated during the dog days and really focusing on the things that going back to my mission, getting back to my mission and making sure that my mindset every day got me closer to that.
What is your mission?
My mission is to empower women, but men too, to live their best lives and find their magic. Mm-hmm. I do executive coaching and motivational speaking, corporate programs around this. And I go back to my own mission. So I'm practicing what I preach. Going back to my mission statement, what's my mindset every day and how am I moving forward towards it?
And what is your mission statement?
My mission statement, my mission statement is to empower
everyone. Okay. I thought that. I'm sorry.
Their magic. No, that's my mission statement.
Sometimes I thought you meant that was your vision. And there's a fine line between vision and mission. Thank you for that. Where do you have that visible to you, Tiffany?
What do you mean? Well, I have it written on my board. My mission statement is written on my board. So in my office, it's the first thing I see.
There you go. So it becomes a living, breathing document that you can go to without thought, and it becomes habitual. I think that's so important to do that. So anybody else have experienced kind of, Terry, your hand's up. Okay. Terry Lyons from Boston. I can't believe you live in Boston. You left New York for Boston.
Yeah.
Geez.
And loving it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, despite the snow.
Yeah.
But I guess just for everyone's, my name's Terry Lyons. I go back with Matt to the late 70s as we attended the same high school, and we've kept in touch all these years with our main man, Davidson coach Bob McKillop, as the guiding light, I think.
That's right.
But as it relates to your question, Matt, and for everyone, I used to work at the NBA League office for quite some time, from about 1980 to 2008. And at this time of year, we always notice more fights, more fines, tempers thin, and it's something that I think, for this group, the way to equate that, on the court, of course, the game is so physical, but I think the way I look at it, at least, and I think you could toss it around, is that you have to lift your patience level with people in the frustration of midwinter. And a little bit depending on where you live, too, I think. Up here you don't see the sun for a while, but maybe it's better in Florida or something, I don't know. There's a lot of science on that. But just in general, I think they're become, Matt used the right term, the sort of the dog days of winter, and that you have to be a little more patient, a little bit more responsive, take a little more initiative, I think, in terms of business and even just friendliness of reaching out to people.
What are some things you can do intentionally, do you think, Terry or anybody else, to besides recognizing it and saying, I got to be more patient? Sometimes we quickly react and go to our default mode. What else can we do?
I think it's hard. It's not an easy task, because it's a two-way street too, that your patience is probably a little tighter. And I think, as you talked about coaching, that dynamic. So the workplace dynamic of everybody just, maybe having a frustrating commute because of the car not starting or something, I don't know. But the way to do it is to actively reach out and keep those, that it is an opportunity, I think, to build relationships better.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you. Brian, your hand's up.
Matt, it's interesting because I think this winter is different than almost every other winter. When you talk about motivating people during the dog days of winter, right? Once again, we find ourselves in uncharted waters, right? With the pandemic, with COVID, with inflation, with everything that's going on in business right now. And as we enter 2022, we thought a lot of this would be behind us, right? And so the best thing you can do in terms of your team is to put yourself in their shoes, right? The walk of empathy for a mile and figure out what's going on in their lives. You and I had a mutual acquaintance in Jeff Foster down in North Carolina. Do you remember we did that webcast with him?
Yes.
And he had tremendous success in his business over the last 2 years because he was all in with his employees. And, he found out that one of his employees was having trouble because her kids had to do Zoom classes from home. And one of them was struggling with calculus. And she said, I don't know the first thing about calculus. And one of the engineers in the company said, I'd be happy to tutor him. Let's get on a Zoom call, a couple of times a week and I can help him with his calculus. And so the employees really stepped up to help each other. Now that was part of their culture and their business. And he's got about, I think, 30 or 40 employees, and everybody kind of stepped up and said, we're all in this together. And he empowered them to do that, which was brilliant. But he also walked in their shoes and he said, okay, well, what are you dealing with? Some I think had some mental health issues. And he said, all right, well, let's address that and let's make it right. Some people needed time off. And he said, okay, you can have it. Because I don't know how long this is going to last, this situation. So we need to make sure that we don't burn out. And his employees have responded to that in the sense that they're more loyal than ever, they're working harder than ever before, and they still enjoy what they do. So kudos to him that he was able to recognize that. Now, I think we can all learn something from what he did in his business.
Yeah, it's I've never been the most empathetic person, to teammates, players, because growing up where we grew up, Brian, it was like, you got to be tough, you got to suck it up. And if you showed a sign of weakness, you lost respect. And so that's something that I've had to be more conscious of working with people, on teams and groups. And I think you have to make a conscious effort. And I think that's why you got to know your strengths and weaknesses. And going back to some kind of assessment, whether it be a DISC assessment or some kind of assessment to know your scouting report on yourself. Like, I'm not a good shooter. Okay. So don't shoot. I'm not really great with empathy. So make sure you have someone on your staff that is really good with empathy and can kind of give you updates and reports and constantly go to them and say, how's the team doing? How are they feeling? What do I need to do? I used to change. Now, collectively, I was probably better, but individually, I probably wasn't as good. But collectively, I could feel it as a coach. And what I tried to do was change up routine. Just with coaching, do different drills at different times, maybe shorten practice, maybe play music, maybe cancel practice, do different things along those lines to shake up the routine, go bowling, just do something. I used to show them highlight films, make highlight films. And I think we could do that in business, with video, and just make it fun so people can smile. Because that part of it, the empathy, the emotional intelligence part, the connectivity to the hearts of your team, that's how you lead. And I think that was really a cool point, Brian.
Yeah, I think that shows that you are in lockstep with your team when you know to do, like, take a practice off or to go bowling, or you recognize that something's off with your team. They expect you to lead as a coach, and if you're not picking up the signs of the team, and you're not in lockstep with them, it's going to be harder for them to follow your direction.
Yeah, I think sometimes the best thing you can do is to be present. I may have said this in a recent meeting. I remember we had a bad practice, and instead of running out the door, which we all can do, I just hung out and sat on the scoreboard while guys were kind of shooting around, relaxing, unwinding from practice. And one of my junior players, who was a leader and emotionally intelligent, I asked him, why were we flat today? We just had won 5 games in a row, and we lost one, and now we were getting ready for another game the next day. And he said, we're afraid. We think that we're going to just, here we go again. We're used to losing. So we think that one loss triggered a trend. And I was like, oh my God, I never thought that, because I've never been around a team that had that mentality. And so instead of, cracking the whip and being tough on them, I had my coach, one of my coaches, put together a highlight film. And the next day after shoot around, we showed it to them and showed them how good they are. And they saw themselves. We all need confidence and encouragers in our lives, even if this month I'm going to be 60. Yeah, 60. And so even at 60, you still like to have encouragers in your life and people that say, good job, or you can do this. And so that encouragement is critical. Kent, I called you Gronk earlier, Conk earlier. I see Robert Conk on from Florida. Lilley.
Yes, sir.
David Van Daff, you always add some wisdom. Drop us some wisdom right now.
Well, I think this is important year round, but certainly during the dog days, and certainly when you're in the Midwest and the East and weather is gloomy and cold and windy, et cetera. But I think everyone can appreciate the fact that we all need to step away from our computer, step away from the office from time to time. And it's really, really hard to do. I think if you don't plan time to be able to step away, step out of your office, go for a walk, stretch a bit, take a yoga class, whatever it may be, when you don't do that, it will eventually lead to burnout. So I think everybody understands the importance, and everybody understands when you step away, the clear mind and how that can help you. But I think the thing that gets lost very often is when you're working with a team, you can encourage a team, hey, listen, step away, go for a walk, do some things along those lines, help with your productivity and your mindset. But at least my teams that I've had in the past, and my team even currently, they don't take that seriously. So they think to themselves, oh, if I step away and then he calls me, then it's going to be look poorly upon the company. And so they tend to stay and just wait just in case. And so the thing that I've tried to do with them time in, time out is block it out in your calendar. If I call you and you don't answer, it's not a big deal. You can call me when you come back. And just continue to stress that over and over again, because I think far too often teams just get really nervous about that aspect of, hey, it's work hours and I'm away and I'm walking around the block and what if somebody calls?
Yep. No, that's a great point. I think another thing, and I don't know if there's technology that can help with this, especially when you're working in different time zones. We've seen this issue where, the emails arrive, the text messages arrive, and it might be 9 o'clock at night where you are, but it's working hours for somebody else. And how do you turn that off? How do you, maybe there's like I said, technology that blocks it to the time there's office hours, because you can say, step away and try to be fresh. But if they're getting emails at 9 o'clock at night, there's an inherent message that you need to be working.
That's a really good point. I've always stressed with my group, if I send you an email, well after hours, or if I send it on the weekend, I need you to look at it right away. Otherwise, it'll be time delayed. So everybody's got it on Outlook. You can delay your delivery of emails. And I've told them, hey, you may get 10 emails from me on Monday morning at 6 in the morning. I didn't write them all at 6 in the morning. I wrote them over the weekend. I don't want you looking at them until first thing in the morning on Monday.
I don't know. Does anybody, Marleen, I'm going to get to you in a second because I'm really curious what the perspective is in Europe. But if you have any tricks, I'd love to hear them. And maybe it's technical or maybe it's just emotional. Marleen, we love long distance Jansen. Welcome.
Well, on time difference, it's 2:28 in the afternoon here. So
Okay.
working hours. Well, I think at a lot of businesses here in Europe, at least in the Netherlands, it's different. It's not so strict working hours. We're working far more on output basis. So, however many time you need to put in to get your product done or your job done, that's fine. If you have an overload, then of course you need to talk to your boss or to your manager that you have every day too far more work than 8 hours a day. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, it doesn't really matter if you do it from 8 in the morning until the afternoon, or if you start at 10 and then you work late. That really, especially now with COVID and working from home, that has become far more easy. And when I raised my hand, I was thinking about, we Dutch, we are pretty blunt.
Let me interrupt, Marleen. We have some new members on, and I love it. I mean, I see some faces that I had not seen before. So thank you guys like Charlie and Roy. Marleen, if we could just introduce yourself briefly, where you're from and what you do.
Okay, I'm Marleen Jansen. I'm from the Netherlands. I am in the Netherlands at this point, working as an HR manager and recruiter for a small, not small, but a small consultancy company. And I've been in HR all my life. When I came back from the US, where I studied, and that's where I know Matt from. A long time ago. We go back a long time.
Yes.
So we are pretty blunt, we Dutch, and sometimes in a working environment that can be difficult because you say things that people understand or they get caught off, and especially if you're online a lot. So the mantra that we have is be clear and be warm and clear. So if you bring a message to your team or to a colleague, and you want it to be clear, make sure that it's warm as well. And if sometimes you need to be clearer, then make sure that you keep the message warm, because if you don't, then you tend to lose contact and people maybe don't talk to you anymore when they have issues. And don't do that only with your colleagues, but also with your superior and with basically with everybody. We started this when I was an HR manager in high school. So the kids needed to do it, the employees amongst each other, and management towards employees and backwards. And that worked really well. So that was my tip for today.
Warm and clear. I love that. Stephanie, who works with me, is scribing, I'm assuming, right, Stephanie? And that's something we need to make sure that we put down, be warm and clear. I want that to, I want Moran to make sure he makes note of that. Be warm and clear, Moran. I mean, you guys from Long Island, you're not very warm. Marleen, how do you know, culture is so important. So how is that rewarded and addressed when it's not done? I think that's the key, is we have these behaviors that are supported by our core values, and, you know, it's got to be constant top of mind. So can you give me an example of recognizing that in a coworker and praising them, or a time when they don't do it and you have to correct them?
Yeah, we tend not to wait very long with correcting people. So we have a constant connection with our employees or in a team. So if a team member shows behavior that doesn't fit, then we talk to them immediately, often in a more informal setting. So you don't have to wait until there's a formal moment. But if somebody shows behavior that you don't want, then also colleagues amongst each other, if you see a colleague put out behavior that is not in the core value of your business, is not warm and clear, then you can just say, hey, you can be a little warmer to me, or hey, this is not very clear to me. So we tend to do that right on the spot, and not wait until formal moments. Also with compliments as well. We're not very good at that. We can do better. We can do better in compliments.
But I think that's so important. So you have the freedom in your organization that if you came across to me that I felt a little cold, that I could say, Marleen, hey, in the future, could you be a little warmer to me?
Yeah. And do it right then and there when the discussion is on. So somebody doesn't have to go back in his mind and think, where was it? What did I do wrong? But do it right there and then, like you do with kids and with animals. You have to correct them right there and then, otherwise they forget.
If I call you out, hopefully in a warm way, and say, Marleen, I'd love for you to deliver that message in a warmer manner. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes that person would have a tendency to get defensive. So how do you, it must be built into your culture that you have to accept that. Like, you have to acknowledge that and respect the fact that I said that to you.
Yeah, that's basically what is in the culture. Not in every company, but that's basically what we're different, I think, than in the US, where we have a less hierarchy in companies. So it's easier to call on your boss as well, or to call on a colleague that has a higher position. We're very flat, also as a country, but also in our organizational models, we're very flat.
Very flat, like topography you're talking about in your country.
In the country, but also in the culture. So yes. There's not much difference. As you see maybe on the news, our prime minister still goes to work on his bicycle and eats an apple, and when he is in an interview. So it's very hard for people from another culture to see where the difference in hierarchy is in our in businesses or in our country. So therefore, it's easier also to speak up to your boss.
Yep.
Because they're closer. The gap is not so wide as in the US.
Right. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I think, Ray, you had your hand up. Are you still there, Ray?
I did have my hand up. I mean, Marleen hit it. I mean, since I work across the globe and most of my time is spent with people in Europe and in South America, they will speak up faster. They will overstep the levels. They won't go to the GM, they'll go right to the president. They'll jump up, and it is good. I mean, it's great in the days when they're having problems, things get solved faster. So I really believe, as a small business owner, 35, 40 employees at all time, that if the door is open, those dog days get really short because they solve the problem quicker. And you don't feel like you're stepping on toes as you do in the big corporations.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. I think I found the mute problem. That's excellent. Those experiences from Ray and Marleen, it's so cool to have you all on with your international background. Charlie, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I thought it was Eli Manning coming on to the show.
Oh no, I'm sad. I'm sad to admit that that's not the first time I've heard that.
Yeah.
That's. I'd pick another few above that, but unfortunately, it's probably the most accurate. So
yeah, well,
it
could be worse. It could be worse. But obviously, you're not a Giant fan, so.
No, that's all right. That's all right. So yeah, I'm a director or leader in supply chain and have been for most of the last 20 years, and spent most of my time with Rubbermaid and a few of the peer companies within that parent company. But yeah, I've spent. I mean, Marleen and Ray were touching on international, and actually, I was spending all this time trying to figure out how to raise my hand because I wanted to jump in earlier. The international landscape really exposes the need to understand how to work with different cultures and different people of different backgrounds. And I've had that experience as well. And you see, some flat organizations like Marleen's speaking about. You can talk around, to whomever you need to, and you can raise points without worrying about a whole hierarchy. You get to Asia, you've got a very strict hierarchy in a lot of cases, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't get that experience outside the country. But it is it's very relatable to an inner office, in the middle of North Carolina. You've got to be able to know your audience and know their backgrounds and expectations. People have gotten to their point in their careers in very different methods through very different paths. And some people put a lot of credit into the hierarchy that they've respected along the way. Others just had a great network and they popped right in. So they might not have that perspective. So it's important. It's important to understand, where everybody's coming from. And yeah, I don't know. I don't want to take up the whole talk.
No. Thank you, Charlie. By the way, do you know Neil Eibler?
I do.
Yeah. Neil, Holy Trinity High School, Long Island. Terry Lyons, Matt Doherty, Neil Eibler. Oh yeah, Trinity's finest. Go Titans.
Neil's a great guy. I love the Crafty Burger.
Yeah, that's right. So you must be local. You in Mooresville, Cornelius?
I'm Huntersville. Yes.
Huntersville. Gotcha. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining. Chuck Cooper.
Good morning, Matt. It's great to be with everyone this morning.
Yeah.
Just a couple of comments with regard to our topics. So I'm Chuck Cooper. My company's Whitewater Consulting in Charlotte, and we work with small and mid-sized businesses really across the U.S., helping them in the areas of HR predominantly. What we're finding a lot of our time being spent these days is really with doing some leadership coaching and talking with companies about their culture and about how to really develop better relationships with their employees. So it's one of what we're talking about today is really something that we're seeing a lot of companies struggling with, especially from a leadership perspective. And I think some of the comments that Brian made and Marleen made are spot on as far as really, I think from a motivation during these dog days, it's really, we can either be motivated by an external source or internally. And I think that if we're looking to really be successful in the motivation, we've got to be able to understand our people and really what motivates them personally. And so really, rather than trying to manage everybody from a one to a team, we've really got to bring this back to a one-to-one relationship to really be able to get the best version of our employees day in and day out. And I think that by doing that, the way we do that is by having more conversations and giving constant feedback rather than waiting, to once a year to try to do a performance review. But, to what was one of the comments that came out earlier, and I think Marleen mentioned this, is, because they're a flatter organization, basically they feel very free to be able to have those maybe challenging or difficult conversations. I'm seeing that even here within the U.S., depending on the really what generation people and the employees are coming from. from my generation, we've always had a very structured, a very hierarchy that we had to follow and be respectful of. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of people within the millennials and the Gen Z right now, I mean, they're very, very quick from a technology perspective to jump in, and they don't really care about what that hierarchy looks like. They're willing to jump in and make their comments known to the leadership right up front, and they're able to bring solutions and help solve problems quicker. And so there's been some conflict, taking place between the generations in that area. So it's something that I think that, I think we're gravitating within the U.S. We're gravitating more toward that, having quicker conversations and trying to resolve issues quicker. So I'm finding that to be a big positive right now with within small and mid-sized companies.
That's good. That's great input. Thank you, Chuck. Terry Lyons, you're back. Hand raised.
Yeah, with a real quick one. And again, I'll lean back to the NBA days. We had a commissioner, the late David Stern, who, for the audience here, he liked to mix it up a bit. There was quite a bit of jousting in the office, and that was the culture, so to say. But Rick Welts, who's quite famous, a Hall of Famer, just recently retired as president of the Golden State Warriors, had a very simple rule, which was that conflict was good, but unresolved conflict was bad. And so we lived by that. And in any meeting, any joust thing, I think with the commissioner, he liked to hear people arguing a bit, so it would better inform him and help him surface an issue, of which there were many, I might add, and he could then hear it out and then make a decision, which he was very good at. But Rick was more of a facilitator and would try to raise the conflict, but then resolve it in the same hour or so. So that's a pretty good rule to go by.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love those little rules. And the key is sharing them with the team and then executing on them. To say, hey, conflict is good. Unresolved conflict is bad. Well, then as a leader, you better model it, because I've seen, and we've all seen, and maybe I even did it as a leader, you put in some kind of protocol and then you don't adhere to it. And then you become a phony. You're a fraud. And so I think
you can't.
Dean Smith would always say, start how you finish, which means consistency. And I think all good leaders are consistent and have the discipline to remain consistent.
Yeah, I found the difficult part, which was if I had a feeling one way or another, and two of my reports were arguing something out, you really had to zip it and let them argue it out, as opposed to putting your own opinion in and let it go. Because sometimes all of a sudden you'd say, wait a second, that person's right.
Right.
And it would change. And sometimes it was, something very important to the NBA. As to where we might do a game or something to do with a major decision where we're going to spend millions of dollars.
Yeah. No, thank you, Terry. Brian, your hand's up.
Yeah. I think it's important to take the conversation we're having today and expand it into the entire ecosystem that you work in. So it's not just how your employees are feeling and how to motivate them, but also your customers, your prospects, your partners and vendors. Again, I go back to, these are uncharted waters that we're operating in. And so there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of questions, and people are looking for leaders. And those leaders might be within your company and they might be outside your company. So when you think about the people that you interact with on a daily basis, your clients, if your clients see you as somebody who's knowledgeable, who's understanding, who's empathetic, you suddenly become a trusted advisor to them. And that is critical because they have questions. And if they're not getting those questions answered internally, they will go externally. And you saw that over the last 2 years. When in-person meetings got taken off the table and there were no more conferences or golf outings or lunches or anything like that, we all defaulted to email, text, phone calls, and Zoom. And what happened was we got overloaded with all of that stuff, right? I mean, all of a sudden, emails went from, they tripled, and text messages and all of that. What happened was people started to put up walls, and they said, you know what, I can't answer that. Stop emailing, stop calling me. But they let in the trusted advisors. They let those people in under the hood. And so you found out very quickly where you stood with your customers, partners, vendors, and whatnot. Because if they continued to have conversations with you, then you were important to them. You were going to help them. You were like a Shempa. You were going to help them get to where they needed to go. And they saw you as a leader. Even though you didn't have that title, that's how it defaulted. And I think that's important. So everything that we're talking about here today, with your employees, with your teams, you can apply that. Think of everybody, again, in your ecosystem, the people who are going to be responsible for your success. Think of them as your extended team. And this is such a great opportunity in 2022 to become that trusted advisor.
Thank you, Brian. Great insight as normal. Tiffany, your hand's up.
I love all the sports analogies. I think one of the most important things during the dog days, and I know this is challenging for a lot of people, but is to ask for support. And it's one of the things through dog days, which could be so many different things, is to truly ask for support when you need it. And I've encouraged clients, and I've had to do that myself. And I think it's important to allow that. And when someone asks for it, be very supportive of your teams.
Well, that goes back to what Brian Moran has said, might be a year ago now. Vulnerability is the new invincibility. And I think people lean into that vulnerability where you may feel the fear of being weak, and then they lean in because they realize we all have our insecurities. We all feel nervous about something. And so to be able to share that, then I think most other people then quick to share. And that's why as a leader, I know in Vistage, I'm a Vistage chair, and they suggest that we model the behavior we want in our meetings. So a lot of times when we bring up issues or we do our check-ins, I will go first and I will share something that is intimate, that I'm going through, that I'm dealing with, and that gives them permission to dive in and go deep. Kent, I see your hand.
Yeah. Good morning, guys. Hey, a couple quick things, man. These comments have been spot on, I think, on all of what we're talking about this morning. And I think, Matt, you were spot on too. One of the biggest ways to do it is to shake up the routine. That's something, the best way to kind of get your vision kind of corrected and refocused. Encouragement's always been the gas in the tank. But I think the piece that I wanted to add on to was really, what I'm hearing Brian and a couple other guys really speak about, it's really that relational aspect, with your team and with your clients. We have a small company. It's me and one other guy. Our team is our whole group of clients, and our vendors, the architects, the engineers, the teams that we work with on projects, is really our team. And what I've kind of come to learn is that, I'm a lot like you, Matt. We're both ENTJs, so I'm not the highest, I'm not the most patient guy sometimes. But what I've had to learn is from coaching basketball for my son is you got to learn to speak their language, whatever the language is. One of my favorite books is kind of like the 5 love languages. And, you got to learn what speaks to another person, what encourages them, what opens that relationship. And I think once we learn to speak their language, in their universe and whatever their orbit is, I think that's when you get better reception, and they understand, you go, he really does care about me. He really does care about the long-term future of me. I'll do whatever we need to do.
Yep.
And I think that's a critical component, is learning how to speak their language, not necessarily my language all the time. You go to those interactions.
Yeah. And I think goes back to empathy. What Brian started with is empathy. Feel as they do. Be in their shoes. Try to look at things from their perspective. Hard to do. Charlie.
Yes, thank you. And I'll reiterate the empathy thing. I think it goes a long way on all fronts, whether you're leading a team or how you're going to work with other people. But the motivation during dog days, whatever defines the dog days, I could easily say a few years ago, a division I was part of was listed for sale. Then I was tasked with keeping my team motivated. Like, how do you keep this team motivated when they realize they're on the chopping block? And the big thing was, it might be a stretch, but I'm gonna tie it to the saying that luck is when opportunity and meets preparation, or something like that. Opportunity plus preparation is where your next step is going to be. So you can't just sit around and say, "Woe is me." You got to figure out, all right, well, what can I do to make myself better? What can I do to make this team better? And during that time we worked for sale, it was all about, hey, we don't know if anybody's going to buy us, but let's at least make it so that we look valuable to them. Let's keep doing what we're doing. Let's keep succeeding and continue to perform, so that when they come in and see us, they say, wow, this is a high performing team. There's no reason to get rid of them. Let's keep them on board. The result, ultimately, we ended up not being sold. They pulled us back into the organization because they liked us. And but the result of my team was that we did improve all of our metrics. We did continue to just keep focused and stay on track, even though it was a downtime. People were concerned, and it was just a matter of I recognize your concerns. I fully understand it. I'm in the same boat, but here's what we can do to make the best of it.
Yep.
And that was my message.
Well, that's good leadership, Charlie, and it's all about mindset. I mean, I think is this happening to you, or is it happening for you? This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to make a difference. This is an opportunity to leave a legacy. If your team is down 10 points with 5 minutes to go, wouldn't it be fun to win? This is how we're going to do it. I mean, nobody believes, the us against them, the comeback story. Everyone loves those stories, and my college coach was as good as anybody about taking advantage of those and making it a mindset. We have about 5 minutes to go. Any last remarks? And if not, I'd like to transition to books. All right.
I've got one, Matt.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Shave off that beard, man. You look a lot older today than you did last time I saw you.
Wow. You're blocked. You're blocked.
Is he
That was a definition of warm and clear.
Wow.
very blunt?
That's only clear.
I want that warm. It was very clear. I want more warmth. More warmth, please, Steve. You obviously missed Marleen's comment. Wow. I thought, wow, okay. All right, Steve. I'll see you on the streets. I'll see you at noon. I'm coming for you. The thing that I've tried to do this year is try to read at least 2 books a month. And I've read Extreme Ownership and Atomic Habits. So I challenge you all, what books are you reading? Tell me what books you're reading. What books have you read in the month of January? Go ahead, Mr. Ellington.
Hey, man, how are you doing?
Good. Jeff, how you doing? I didn't recognize you there.
Hey, I'm good, thanks. Sorry I was late joining this really inspiring crew of sort of. I can tell these guys are all entrepreneurs in one way or another. So one of the books I've really enjoyed is one called Originals by Adam Grant. I like that one a lot because it helps people appreciate sort of the inner courage that you have to get to if you're going to get past the conformity that comprises sort of the status quo. And if we're bringing leadership to our respective industries, it's got to go outside of sort of the traditional ways of doing things. I mean, that's what, and our Constitution was really not founded so much on bringing virtues and so forth to the general public. It was founded more on preservation and control. And I think the reason we have so many problems right now with with what's happening with the control forces that seem to be coming down on us is that all these things are encouraged constitutionally. And so I would encourage everybody to take a look at all the things that Aristotle said way back when, and that Socrates actually was trying to tell the Greeks way back when. And Socrates basically said, hey, the government needs to be set up to promote virtuous activities among the people. And you know what they made Socrates do?
What?
Drink hemlock.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jeff. I'm going to let Mr. Conk close us out. We've got 2 minutes, so keep it to a minute, Robert.
There's 2 books that I read every January, the same 2, to jumpstart my sales year. How to Win Friends and Influence People, and by Dale Carnegie, and Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I started reading those in the late 80s, and I reread them every year as a jumpstart. And of course, there's several other sales books that I've read and other business books along the way. But those 2 are my 2 go-tos that I continually use in my sales career.
Good. Well, thank you for sharing.
Hey, Matt, this is a good one too. This is a very good one. I know it's a little bit off the subject.
No.
But the meaning of marriage by Tim Keller.
Okay. Writing it down. Stephanie, I hope you're writing these down. All right, listen, it is close to 9 o'clock. I apologize for the technical difficulties. We'll make sure we're on point. I challenge you to have a new book read by the next meeting, and invite one other person. We had 20 today on a consistent basis. Love it to be 40, and love to recruit some diversity. We need more women. We need some people of color, and really make this a robust, dynamic group. Thank you so much. Have a great day.